Hello and welcome to Todd Talk, where insight meets inspiration. I'm your host, Todd Hiller, and I'm an author, speaker, and longtime community leader, here to guide you on a journey towards fulfillment and balance. In every episode, we'll explore ways to fill life's emptiness, helping you uncover practical tools to create harmony, purpose, and happiness. Whether it's thriving in your career, nurturing personal growth, or simply finding joy in the everyday, Todd Talk is your space for real conversations and actionable advice. So let's thrive together, personally, professionally, and beyond. This is Todd Talk, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Imagine you're standing in the middle of an open field and someone yells, "Run!" Your first question is probably, well, why? And if there's a bull charging at you, you're going to run one way. You're going to run away from the bull. But if someone tells you there's a bag of money over on the other side of the field, just waiting for the first person to get there to take it, and if you get there first, you can have it, your motivation is completely different. Now, it's the same action. Running is the same. If you take off to run, you're running to run, right? That same action. Your feet are moving fast, your arms are pumping, your lungs are doing a lot of hard work, and you're headed off to run. But it's completely different motivation, even though the action is the same. And so that's where we get the idea for today's episode theme, is that running away from something you don't want is not the same as running towards something that you do want. Most of the time, people know what they don't want to do. It's pretty easy for us to figure that out. If we think of a situation and we say, well, do you want to do that, or does it sound interesting, or does it sound fun? It's usually pretty quick. We can say, nope, not at all. Do you want to go outlet shopping at 2 o'clock in the morning? Nope, I don't. I don't at all, period. For Black Friday? Nope, I don't. I know that about myself. That doesn't sound fun to me. Do you want to sit on the front porch of a mountain cabin somewhere and just start a fire first thing in the morning and drink coffee and watch the birds swim across the lake and dip across the water? Yeah, 1,000%. I will go tomorrow. Just give me the keys to the cabin and off we can go. But for some people, they're probably like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to be stuck somewhere like in the middle of nowhere with no civilization and no one around and like just, one other person. And I'm good. I don't want to do that. I don't like that. I don't like the mountains. I don't like the water. And the list goes on and on. And it doesn't make one better than the other. It's just that we know inherently pretty quickly what we do and don't want to do. And we know what we are and are not interested in, or what we do and don't look forward to doing. So positive changes in our life begin a lot of times because of discomfort. Sometimes the positive things, the positive changes we make come because we are really sick and tired of the way things are going. Burnout, a toxic workplace, poor health, financial stress, relationship problems or struggles. Pain is often the alarm clock that wakes us up and says, hey, something needs to change. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to have these things happen to me. I don't want to be in these situations. Something's gotta give, and something needs to change. And there's nothing wrong with wanting relief, right? It would be silly if we said, well, we want to suffer the rest of our lives. That sounds like a good thing to do. No, we all want to be comfortable in our life. We all want to do things that make us happy and have time for our friends and our family and our loved ones. If you're like me, you want time to go run away to that mountain cabin and sit there and just escape the rest of the world. But everybody has these things that they know they want to do, which is awesome. But sometimes the struggles and the things and the discomfort and the uncomfortable things are the thing that pushes us and gives us that shove that says, hey, it's time to go away from this. It's time to run away from this, so to speak, right? We have to run away from the bull in the field. We have to run away from the things that we are uncomfortable with, or they bring us discomfort or bring us anger and resentment and all those things. But there are so many life-changing decisions, I think, begin with the phrase, I can't keep doing this. Ask yourself that question. How many times in your life, or think of a time in your life when you were like, I can't keep doing this. I can't stay in this job. I can't keep showing up every day at this office or to this job that I hate. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I can't stay in the relationship with this toxic person, with this person who brings me nothing but misery, or this person who always belittles me. I can't stay here and live in this place where I always feel unsafe, or I can't live in this place where I always feel cramped and crowded and like I can't even breathe. The I can't keep doing this is the push that we need to get us to the place, or at least get us to the first step of doing the things that we want to do. And in the case of life in general, so many of our decisions are made because we are trying to do our best to get away from something that we don't want and it makes us uncomfortable, which is necessary and good. We want to take ourselves out of those situations that don't make us happy or that make us uncomfortable. But the cool distinction here is that is not the same as running towards something that you do want. I set up the episode and introduced it with that phrase, running away from something you don't want is not the same as running towards something that you do want. And so the idea is that pain can start the journey, but it shouldn't become the destination. You shouldn't just say, hey, I have to get away from this thing, period, end of story, full stop, and not have any plan after that. Because just leaving is not a destination. It's an action. Leaving and walking away doesn't bring you anywhere all that far from where you just were. Taking a step away is great, but if someone says run and you're in that field and you only take 5 steps, the bull is still charging at you. You haven't gotten very far away from the discomfort or the uncomfortable situation that is likely to bring you a lot of discomfort. So while you start the journey and that alarm clock of all those things that kind of wake us up and the I can't keep doing this anymore gives us that shove to the direction we want to go, you can't just stop there once you've taken that first step away. The problem with escape-based goals is that they are defined entirely by what we don't want. And that's the tricky part and the tricky distinction between running away from something you don't want versus running towards something you do want. So some examples, right? I don't want debt. I don't want stress. I don't want burnout. I don't want conflict. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want. The list is endless. However, what happens when you achieve that? It's like the old phrase, a dog chasing cars. If he ever actually caught one, he wouldn't know what to do with it. So if you have that mentality that your goals are defined by what you don't want, that can bring us a kind of a big hurdle to get over because we all of a sudden stop once we get away from that one thing or that set of things that we're trying to escape from. So what happens when you achieve that? I don't want stress. Okay, so maybe you say, well, stress comes from this really awful job. I don't want that. So you quit the job. Awesome. You have walked away and removed yourself from the stress. But now what? Where does your income come from? How are you going to pay your bills? Where are you going to work in the future? Do you need a new resume? Has your resume been updated lately? Do you have any new job prospects or job interviews or applications that you filled out? Stopping once you've removed the stress doesn't actually carry you towards the new portion of the goal. And hopefully that makes sense. So leaving the old job is good, helps with your stress level, helps with your mental health, but it doesn't bring you anywhere new where you can continue the job that you probably and most likely need to keep paying your bills and to keep living. I don't want stress, right? That's one that's probably pretty common in most people's lives. Nobody wants stress on purpose. We all want to be as stress-free as possible. But something else like I don't want debt. Okay, awesome. You don't want debt, so you pay down all of your you pay down your credit card bill, you pay off your student loans, you pay off your vehicle, whatever it is. All the debt you have, you kill it, right? You pay it off, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We are debt-free. This is so cool. Awesome. Now what happens going forward when you have to buy something big? The refrigerator dies, the dishwasher goes, you need to buy a new vehicle, you have to do some major project to your house, you need a new septic system, you need a new roof, and all these things, and now you're like, well, we have to borrow some money. So you were debt-free, but how do you stay that way, and what's the plan going forward? Do you say, hey, the way we got rid of the debt, I don't want debt, good, we got rid of it, awesome, we paid it all down, we saved up some money, we worked a couple extra side jobs, awesome, the debt has been squashed. But what do you do going forward? Because if that's the only goal of I don't want debt, life doesn't just stop happening once everything's paid off. There will be things that come up in the future that you still have to pay for. So what do? Do you say we're going to start a sinking fund or I'm going to start a savings account so I make sure I never have to go into debt again? I'm going to find a new job that pays me more. I'm going to work more extra hours. I'm going to save better. I'm going to plan better. I'm going to budget better. We have to have the forward-thinking momentum and the forward-thinking progress to keep going towards the thing we want. Now, what happens when you say, yes, I know I don't want this, period, end of story. But what happens if we don't follow through with that? We know what we don't want, but that leaves a closed door on the things that we do want. And if we don't ever explore them, one day when we have the opportunity to do something new or to try something new, it's going to be really difficult for us to kind of ration out and reason out if that's something we want to take a chance on or something we want to do. Meaningful goals will pull us forward. But without a vision for what comes next, I think a lot of times people drift back towards the old habits because they never built a compelling future, or they never built a future with an actual plan and a step-by-step process, and they don't know what to do. We end up saying, I don't want to do this anymore. So we get rid of the this, and we walk away and we run away from that. But we don't have anything to run towards. And we say, well, now what? And we regress back to the old habits because they're easy and they're comfortable and they're familiar. And that's the problem with habits, right? Some bad habits, or not necessarily bad habits, but some routine habits that we've just kind of fallen into and become stagnant, they're easy to fall back into because we've already been there and they're not an unknown and they're more comfortable than this new thing. So you have to build that. You have to know and understand that when you walk away from something and you're running away from something and you're getting out of debt or you're getting away from the stress or you're finding a new job or getting out of that awful relationship, what is it that you then want to run towards? What is it then that you want to go to so you can get to and keep going and lead a life that makes you happier and feeling more abundant and better about all the things in your life? And those meaningful goals, like I said, pull us forward. Instead of saying, well, I don't want to feel burned out anymore. How about I want energy for my family? I want meaningful work that doesn't burn me out, that lifts me up and makes me feel accomplished and energized. I want balance in my life where I am able to do the things that used to burn me out, but also do the things that make me happy and make me smile. I want to enjoy my life again. How beautiful is that? Think of just those two comparisons. I don't want burnout, period. Right? That's a pretty broad statement, and I think one that lots of people could agree with. Nobody wants to be burned out. But think how much more beautiful it is to say, I want to enjoy my life again. Now, those are two things that are connected. In that person's mind, or in our mind, we're saying, I don't want burnout because that will let me enjoy my life again. But think of just the phrasing, the way you set it up. Instead of the goal being wanting to get away from burnout, make the goal enjoying your life again, because that has a whole lot more steps that we can use and plan out, and a whole lot more things that will make us think about and consider in the long run of how is that going to be possible? What will it mean to enjoy my life again? What does that look like? Write it down if you have to. Sit down at your desk, at your kitchen table, and write down what it looks like to enjoy your life, to take the time to spend with your family, to have time to on a random Sunday to go take a nap if you want to sit on the front porch and drink coffee or lemonade or iced tea or have a drink or have a cocktail and have nothing else to do except relax and unwind. Pencil those things into your life. And those are really crucial differences to make sure we call out, because saying I don't want burnout, quote unquote, is not the same as I want to enjoy my life again. They are the same sentiment, because getting rid of the burnout will help us enjoy our life again. But it won't be the only thing that we have to do or want to do to make our lives super enjoyable. And another good example of this, I think, is with our health, right? I don't want to be unhealthy. Okay, I think that's a pretty fair statement that everybody could say. We want to get away from being unhealthy. But what does that look like? If you just say, I want to run away from being unhealthy. Okay, well, when you take those 5 steps away from unhealthy, what does that look like? What do you do going forward to maintain and sustain that? How about I want strength? I want longevity. I want to hike with my grandkids someday. Those are purposeful things, and that purpose creates momentum that fear alone can't sustain. If you say, I don't want to be unhealthy because it makes me fearful of getting sick or not living long enough, like that's a correct statement. It's obviously understandable. But that's where it ends, right? I don't want to be unhealthy. The step is just the unhealthy part, and we say we want to run away from being unhealthy and walk away from it. But to what end? Why do we not want to be unhealthy? Well, because someday when I'm 75 years old, I want to hike with my grandkids just like my parents hike with my kids right now, or like my parents and step-parents have the energy to do things with my kids right now. And, I just put some hay away yesterday, and this is a fantastic example of that. My parents and my stepdad and a good friend of ours who's the same generation of my parents, they are like some of my best hay helpers. And putting away hay is not easy. We make small square bales, and it's labor intensive, and it's always hot because you can't make hay when it's cold. That's that's kind of the nature of the beast. But they are always willing to show up and help. And I think all the time, you know what? When I am their age, I want to be able to do stuff that is this hard and this labor intensive. And that's why when I want the third piece of chocolate cake, I say, hey, maybe just have one instead. Or that's why when my daughter says, do you want to go for a walk tonight? And it's already 7 o'clock and I've had a long day and I'm tired. I say, yeah, you know what, honey, let's go for a walk. Instead of just, well, I don't want to be unhealthy. Okay, well, I have to have something to put in front of me to make that possible. And so that purpose gives you so much momentum to keep going and going and going and bring yourself to the place you want to be, which is really, really cool. And, there's a great farm comparison in here too, I think. I was out in my garden this morning pulling weeds, and that's really valuable work, right? Pulling weeds in a garden is necessary because we don't want the weeds to overtake the space and overtake the garden. We want the actual things we planted to grow. The weeds overcrowd the plants. They also rob nutrients from the soil. They create shade so that some stuff can't get shade. Oh, if you hear those beeps, guys, that's a fire call. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. Every time that happens, and I know it's only happened a few times while I'm recording, but I always think, well, I'm going to go back and edit that out. But I don't. And the reason I don't is because I like that real world part of me. So that is the nature of, I don't know, the fire service of, even what, in the middle of doing something, sometimes we just got to get up and get gone. So everybody is okay. Everything is fine. Nothing to worry about. But I was talking about pulling weeds, right, in a garden. This morning I was out. It was nice and quiet out this morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was starting to come up. It was cool out. It was breezy. It was such a nice morning. So I went out and pulled some weeds in my garden. And that's really important because, like I said before, the weeds can take over if you let them and you're not careful. But if all you do is remove the weeds and you never actually plant anything, you're still going to end up with just an empty field or an empty garden. You can't just remove the things you don't want. You have to put the things you do want into play. You have to put the things you do want into the ground. You have to put the things you do want into practice and let them grow and become those big, beautiful things that you want to happen and that you want to take place and that you want to experience and you want to have. So removing the weeds is, yes, that's great. You're removing the negative. You're removing the things that could overcrowd the things you want. But if that's all you do and you never put any energy into actually planting the things you want and getting those things, then where the heck are we? We're still left with an empty field. And yes, there's no weeds in it. That's a plus. But there's nothing else in it either. It's just empty. So removing your stress from your life as the quote unquote, the theoretical weeds, that's not enough. Removing your burnout isn't enough. Removing your bad habits isn't necessarily enough. You have to put new things into place to replace the negativity that you've gotten rid of and to have the things in your life grow that you want to grow and tend to and experience and work on. So my question is, what are you planting in your theoretical field of life? What is it that you want to grow? And then what do you have to remove and get out of there to let that grow and let that flourish and let that happen? Running away from something or removing something is important work because it gets us out of that fight or flight place. It gets us out of the negativity. It removes the negative. It removes the weeds. But you have to have something to go towards. You have to have something to plant. You have to have something to water and give it sunlight and watch it grow. Whether it's in an actual field or an actual garden or in your life, you have to get your environment right so that you can grow into the person or into the place or into the career that you actually want to find and have as you move forward in this life. And think about one thing, one challenge you're currently trying to escape. What is it that you're trying to walk away from? Think of something in your brain. And I want to give you these 2 sentences. I am trying to move away from blank, and I am trying to move towards blank. Fill that in for yourself. What is it that you're trying to get away from in that specific situation? So if you have a challenge you're currently trying to get away from or trying to escape, you say, I want to get away from this one thing. But what is it that you want to go towards after you get rid of that one thing or that thing is in the way from? And please know that those are not standalone and those do not have to be 100% separate. moving away from something and moving towards something else go hand in hand. They don't just have to stand alone. Once you move away from one thing, a lot of times that is how we move into the next thing. That is how we move into the thing we want to do. That's the way we get from point A to point B and pursue the things we want to pursue. Sometimes we can't do that until we move away from something else or remove something else from our life. So I want to encourage you, spend more time thinking about the second answer than the first. Like I said earlier in the episode, it's really easy to think of things we know we don't want to do. The things you know are like, if somebody asks me to do this and I say yes, I'm immediately going to regret it and resent them and the entire situation until that thing is done and over with, because I know I don't want to go. There's a whole bunch about that in a different episode about, saying yes when you don't actually want to say yes, right? No is a complete sentence. Say no to the things you don't actually want to do, because otherwise it just breeds resentment and you end up angry and miserable from point A to point B all the way through until that one thing is over. You dread it leading up to it. But anyway, I digress. That's another episode. You can go find that one if you want to listen to that one too. But, give the second answer that I'm trying to move towards more thinking and more thought than the first, because the future deserves more attention than the thing you're leaving behind. Period. And that is probably as simple as it sounds. Your future deserves more attention and more work and more effort than the things you want to get rid of and the things you want to remove from your life. Because removing them, if it's something you don't want to do anymore and it's something you want to remove because it's a bad habit or it's a negative situation or a toxic relationship or a terrible career, removing it should get the energy. The actual thing you don't like or you want to move away from shouldn't get any energy anymore. Stop giving it the energy you work so hard to preserve all day long, and use that and focus and give it to the future and the attention give the attention to the things you're trying to build, not the things you're trying to leave behind. And sometimes, I think sometimes the thing that we are running away from is exactly what pushes us to change. Sometimes trying to get away from that really awful thing is the way we find out and figure out, what, I don't want to do this anymore, but what I really do want to do is this. I don't want Y, but I really do want X and Z and R and S in my life, and all whatever letters you want to pick. So don't just stop there, though. Don't just say, hey, I want to get away from this thing, period. Don't leave it there. Let it be an ellipsis instead of a period, right? ... I want to move away from this, pause, and then I want to move toward this. Use the discomfort as a launching pad, not the permanent address where you're going to stay and live forever. You want to get away from something, that's awesome, but use that to push off and propel yourself towards the new things that you want to try, the new things you want to embrace, the new things you want to get good at. I think so often of things that I wish I either stayed with or kept up with or put more energy into from a long time ago at a younger age. And now I do my best when things like that come up and I think, I'll do that later, to just forget about the later and build a whole list of those things that you want to do in your life. Because this isn't something you can just do once when you're sitting in your car or you're listening to this episode, you say, I want to get away from this and do this. That's great. This is not a single story building. This is not a single line list. This is a whole list of things you want to do to go forward, and it will keep evolving and it will keep changing, and you'll keep finding new things you want to do. And so keep making the new list. Keep bringing up those things with yourself that you want to focus on, that you want to change, that you want to get better at, and give your energy to that. And as you do that, and the more things you'll move away from some things and you move towards new things, and you'll kind of bob and weave and ebb and flow your way through this path that we call life. But the important part is that you don't just stop when you walk away from the negative or from something you want to change. Give yourself permission to walk into and walk towards the new things that you want to pursue. Because there is a profound difference between escaping a life you don't want and intentionally building a life you do. Because if we just spend our entire lives getting away from things that we don't like or that we don't want to do or that make us uncomfortable, that doesn't mean it's going to bring us anywhere all that great. If you say, I want to get out of this relationship, this toxic relationship, because it brings me nothing but anger and frustration, and we don't love each other, this person is unkind to me, they're cruel to me, they make me feel bad about myself, all of that is definitely worth getting away from. But if that's where you stop, where does that leave you? It leaves you single. And so maybe that's the goal. And maybe you want to stay single for the rest of your life. But tell yourself that and figure that out. Because walking away from the toxic relationship doesn't mean you're in a good one. It just means you got out of the bad one. Quitting your job that you can't stand, that brings you nothing but stress and aggravation, doesn't mean you have the new dream job that you've always loved and always dreamt of doing. There's that old saying that says, find a job you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's awesome, and that is very, very true. But if all you do is quit the job you hate and you never start the one you love, then where does that leave you? It leaves you unemployed and without any source of income for the foreseeable future. You have to make that plan, and you have to make those changes, and you have to make those commitments to move forward and find the things you want to work toward and find the things you want to work on. And this applies to so many different situations that can be relevant to all walks of life, all ages, all socioeconomic backgrounds, whatever it is, wherever you live, whatever you do for a job. It's all relative to your life. And that's the really cool part. Some people really want to walk away from some things and toward other things, and some other people want to walk away from other things and run towards completely different things. I love being a firefighter. I love it. Hands down. If there's a fire and they say, hey, this building's on fire, do you want to go in and put the fire out and look for people and all that kind of stuff? Yep, sign me up. I will run headlong there as fast as I can. If you ask some people out there, like, what, are you out of your mind? Absolutely not. The gear is heavy. The gear is hot. The air packs, I don't like tight spaces. I don't like the dark. I don't like being hot and overwhelmed. No, I'm good. No, thank you. And it always amazed me. When I was a little kid, I remember thinking as I was growing up, like, being a fireman would be so cool, or being a police officer, they have such a cool job, and this and that. And when you talk to other people about it, they're like, yeah, I would never, ever in my entire life, full stop, ever, not if you gave me $5 million, be a cop or a fireman or a nurse or a hospital worker or an EMT or a paramedic. Like, no, thank you. Have zero interest in it. And when I was little, I'm like, but how can that be true? Like, doesn't everybody want to do this? Like, how are there enough jobs for all the people who love this and want to do this? But the truth is that doesn't interest some people. And some people, if you said to me, hey, do you want to be a stockbroker? Like, people love trading stocks. We love the rush. We love the energy. We love the high of it. Oh, it's so fun, and we thrive on it. If you told me, do you want to be a stockbroker? I'd be like, absolutely not. Hard pass, no thank you. Like, I'm good. I have zero interest in it. But to some people who really love that world and love that life, they're probably thinking, well, what's wrong with that guy? He doesn't want to do, why would he not want to do this? This is so interesting and exciting and fun, and it's always changing, it's always different. And that's great for them. But if all I ever said in my life was, I know I don't want to be a stockbroker, I know I don't want to be a lawyer, I know I don't want to be a boat captain, whatever it is, whatever example you can give in your own life. If that's all I said, I would have no idea where I want to walk. I'd have no idea what my purpose was. I'd have no idea where I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to pursue, because I hadn't checked in with myself and said, hey, that's great that you don't want to do these things, but you have to understand and know where you do want to go and what you do want to pursue, because that's the really important other side of this coin. And fear, we talked about before. Fear can be the thing that gets you moving and gets you going. If you say, I don't want to do this anymore, or this worries me, I want to get out of this situation, that fear, so to speak, can get you going, and that's awesome. But purpose is what keeps you going. Once you say, hey, I want to get away from this because that fight or flight fear has kicked in, I have to get away from this one thing, awesome. But where do you want to go? The purpose that you have in your life is what's going to keep you going. What is your purpose? Explore that. What do you want to do? What do you think you were put on this earth to do? Think about that. I know it's a deep question. I know it's a big question, but that can be a really good one to develop and think about as you move forward, and that will help you understand what things to put in front of you that you want to walk towards and try to accomplish. And, there is no right or wrong. Please hear me when I say that. What one person wants to walk away from can be something that somebody else wants to run headlong towards. Period, end of story. Someone might say, hey, I want to get out of this relationship and be single forever for the rest of my life. And somebody else might be like, I want to get away from being single. I can't stand it. I need someone in my life to share my life with. I don't want to do this anymore. And that polarity and that kind of give and take is what makes the world really interesting and what makes us all different and kind of makes the world go round. And that's the cool thing. So don't approach this with it, well, I have to pick the quote-unquote right answer. I have to pick the quote-unquote correct things or the right things to get away from and walk towards. Comparison is the thief of joy. Remember, what's good for one person doesn't have to be good for you. If it matters and is important to you, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. All those things, right? You are you. You are beautifully and specifically you. You were put together to be the person you are and bring to this world what you bring to this world. you are not somebody else. You don't have to align with them. Can you be similar? Absolutely. Do you have to be that person? No way. So remember, as we close, you guys, running away from something you don't want is not the same as running towards something you do. And the life you want isn't found by constantly looking over your shoulder at what you're leaving behind. It's built step by step by keeping your eyes on what you're moving towards, what will make you feel happy, fulfilled, and the things that will bring you so much joy that you want to run headlong towards them. Thank you so much for lending me your ears and your time, my friends. Wherever you are in this world, I hope the rest of your day is fantastic. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week and weekend and week ahead. And wherever you are, thank you so much for the comments and the follows on social media. I truly have been so overwhelmed and blown away and happy by the people who actually show up to listen to this podcast and listen to these messages. It means more to you than I can actually explain and put into words adequately. Be well, my friends. Take care. I hope you enjoyed the message, and just be so well.
Thanks for tuning in to Todd Talk. If you've liked what you've heard, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates or new episodes. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.